Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Time Career Chat. My name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, leadership empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. All those things mean I love working with people to help them get to the next level of where they want to be personally and professionally, but to do so in a manner that is aligned with their long-term goals and values. And welcome to this episode of Coffee Time. I am super excited to be here. And just so you know, you are not nuts. This issue is coming to you a little off schedule because, spring break got the best of us on the past Monday. So instead, you get a double dose today. But we are continuing this series on Leadership Leaps and Legacies. And I did not want to get off schedule because it's so rich in so many things. Now, if you have never joined us before, welcome once again. I invite you to check out previous episodes where they're kept on our YouTube channel, or if you feel like scrolling, you can scroll through the post here on the platform that you're observing. But I encourage you to check out the YouTube channel, and you can get to that from our website, patriciavhayes.com, or the link tree. Wanted to get those things out of the way because I always forget them. Also, regarding this series, I'm super excited about it because a couple of years ago, I did this series in honor of President's Day, where I focus on talking about leadership, legacies, and bold leadership in the context of previous presidents and the challenges that they had faced and how they overcame them and what made them bold leaders. And since that time, I've really been wanting to do a series for Women's History Month, and I have not done it. So this is my effort at starting that series, because this is just one of several. I'm really only starting to focus on one person this month, but I anticipate doing the series more fully so that I can turn it into a presentation like I did for the other one. So you're part of this process of me creating something new that I've been wanting to do for a while, but needing to take it in bits and pieces rather than the whole chunk like before, because it's a lot. That said, we started last week with talking about leadership leaps and acknowledging that there are things that you need to acknowledge when it's your turn to step into leadership, and defining what leadership means in terms of being someone who is, going to have to make some sacrifices, who is going to have some strong influence and impact on the people and teams that they lead, but that it's not just about the position that you're in. I am a strong advocate that just because you have a title does not make you a leader. There are some people with great titles who are horrible leaders, okay? So that said, that's the premise from which I work from. And today we're moving forward with focusing more specifically on bold leadership and what it means and what it takes to be there. And this is going to be the rest of the series for this month, right? So today we're going to talk about those 3 requirements of bold leaders and what it looks like. And then next week we're going to talk about the leadership nuggets. There are 6 of them, bold leadership nuggets that come up for those folks who are stepping into being bold leaders. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at some bold leader moments and what it requires when they come up. Okay, so that's where we're headed. Lay that out there so you can make sure to hit the little ping reminder button, whatever it is, so that you can catch this and listen in on your walk, on your drive-in, whatever it is you're going to do. All right. So in honor of Women's History Month, though, I really wanted to focus on this conversation of The Leadership and the Legacy Left Behind of Harriet Tubman. I had not seen the movie Harriet. I'm always a little behind when it comes to things like that. I don't always see movies right when they come out, especially ones that are of historical nature, because sometimes the content is difficult, particularly when it comes to African American history. And I personally need to prepare myself for it, right? It's not because I can't handle it, but I need to be prepared to deal with it. So there are some great movies out there that still to this day I have not seen, because I've not gotten to that point of feeling like I was ready to really go all in on the content so that I can be able to rest with it later. That's a whole other conversation about managing your energy and your personal boundaries in all kinds of ways. We'll talk about that another time. But that said, I have been wanting to see Harriet. I had not seen it. And so a couple of weeks back, I did watch it and I was just blown away. It's a beautifully done movie. If you have not seen it, it is beautifully representative of Harriet Tubman and her stories and her work. It's just well done. It's one that I will sit down to watch again soon, just because I feel like there's probably things I've missed. I'll want to go do some reading, to kind of track it. It's all of those things. It's one of those movies that inspires you to go learn more and to go dig deeper. So I highly encourage it. And so with this bridge from African American Black History Month to Women's History Month, I really felt like using Harriet Tubman as the catalyst for this conversation was highly appropriate. And so here we are. Now, for those of you who don't know who she is, I encourage you to go do a quick little search. But history will tell you very quickly that Harriet Tubman was literally one of the strongest catalysts for the Underground Railroad during slavery here in the U.S. And she risked her life many, many times to go bring slaves out of slavery to freedom in the North. That is a very quick and very non-substantive description. So I encourage you to go do a little homework on your own. That said, one of the things I want to make sure to lay out before we get started on today's topic of what are those 3 requirements of bold leaders is, what do I mean by boldness? And so when I presented this topic originally, and I went back and looked at it, and I'm like, I'm pretty still on track with this. And so, I always have to go do the quote, technical definition, right? Because someone's going to go do that. And it talked about not hesitating or being fearful in the face of actual or possible danger, or to rebuff and to be courageous or daring. There's a lot there, right? Because it means that you're not hesitating. There's something that perhaps you should be hesitating about in the eyes of others. And that there's some danger that's perceived, whether by yourself or by others, that's real or not, right? But it's perceived. But you knock it aside and you take, have a courageous moment or moments and move forward in spite of. The additional definition that I like as well, coupled with this, talks about going beyond the usual limits of conventional thought or action or imagination. Now think about that in terms of boldness, right? Going beyond what's conventional, that whole conventional wisdom, the things that you do because it's pretty much understood it should be done this way. This is about going beyond that. Maybe even it's conventional wisdom is the thing you're, quote, rebuffing. It's the thing you're kicking to the side. I'm like, no, we're not going with that today. And so I want you to think about that as the base of what boldness is when we're talking about it over the course of the next 3 weeks. Now, in these terms, here are the things that really came up in talking about bold leadership and what it means in 3 different realms. Number 1, the mindset that's required. Number 2, the the clear goals and big dreams that are required of bold leaders, and the building of strategic relationships. Y'all, I promise, like that just fell right in originally and still today, because, I'm all about the building of those relationships and doing so strategically, but to learn that it's important when you're being a leader with boldness as well. It's really important. And it came up numerous times when I did this presentation in terms of the presidents, because a lot of times those leaders had to build strategic relationships with people who actually hated them, right? And that's that piece where you have to sacrifice some bit of what's going on here today in terms of looking forward beyond into what the long-term dream and goal is, right? So that said, let's take a little step back in terms of looking at it with Harriet Tubman in mind. When we're looking at it with this strong woman who was a slave, whose parents had been freed, but she was not, right? And all of the complicating things that were going on there, and having been married to a former slave, so one who was freed, but she was not. What is the mindset of someone who has these things and knows what's possible in spite of still having to literally slave away on the plantation, to have a slave owner who refused to acknowledge an agreement that had been set forth prior, regarding her family, regarding her husband's freedom, all of these things. And he was just like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So you need to move on your way. Like literally, this is what the man said. And what does it take for someone to know that I have to achieve this being freedom, so that I can make things better for not just my family, but those around us, our community. And so what is the mindset that requires? So here are a couple of things. Number one, she was leaving without her family or her husband. Her husband was like, no, let me come with you. And she feared for his life. And that even though he had been designated as a freed man, that he would have that freedom taken away from him if he came along with her. And so she slipped away without him. What is the mindset that's required to know that you're leaving behind your entire family, all the people that you know and love? Like, there's no guarantee that you're going to make it to this land of freedom, but she was determined to do so. And she knew that it was for her own well-being and that of others for her to try, right? The knowledge of knowing that you must try even when there's no guarantee, even when you're leaving behind all the things that are familiar to you, even in an enslaved land, but you're leaving your family behind. You're leaving behind the people that you love. Now, here's the thing that really stuck with me, which is when she returned. So she has the mindset to go out on her own, find her way. We'll talk about some of those relationships later, but to find her way and to then say, I have to go back. After she's reached freedom, to say, but I have to go back. And to have people on the other end like, are you crazy? Like, no one's done this. You can't go back to go get people. Like, you need to stay here. Stay safe, work on it from this end. And she's like, you can help me or not, but I'm going back. Right? Here's the thing. When she went back, got to tell the story just a little bit. But when she went back, because she had a moment where they almost found her and she fell into the river and they thought she was dead. So they considered her dead. So they went back to her family, those who were chasing her, and told them she was dead. So when she returned, imagine the shock of finding out, oh my God, not only is she not dead, she's back. And what did she do in order to come back? The preparation that it required. But here's the kicker. She returned to come back to get her husband because that's what it was all about. But because he thought she was dead, he had remarried a free woman. And that is something to completely undermine everything that she had been working towards. The person one of the main people she'd come back for was no longer available to her. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does that do to your mindset? And yet she did not give up. Instead, she says, okay, well, let me come along. Let me grab a couple of people. Let's go. And that's what she did. And that's where it started, because she came back for certain people. The one she came back for was no longer available and was not going to go. So that's where she started with helping those who were willing and ready to help themselves and to take a chance on themselves in order to get to freedom. Now, here's another thing. She was being underestimated because she was a woman. And not just any kind of woman. She was a Black woman who had not been granted for her freedom. And here she was going back and forth to do the thing that risked her life every single time on the Underground Railroad and establishing something that others had really not done before. They had set up checkpoints and all those things. But rare, I don't believe, I'll have to go back and check the history, but from what I was getting was it wasn't common, let's say that, for anyone to go back, especially someone who had escaped enslavement, had not been given the freedom. All right. So let's just dig deep on what the mindset that's required to overcome all of those things. One of determination, one of definitely some resiliency. I mean, that seems like such an understatement to even just put it into one word like that, right? And the courage, that piece of actually facing difficult situations, dangerous situations, and moving forward with courage anyways. And moving forward in our own lives here today as being bold leaders are something that's always going to be a part, right? There's going to be those difficult situations where you're going to have to be challenged with something that's going to require sacrifice on your part, where there's going to require some determination for sure to do something in spite of. It's always the in spite of, right? And the courage, having the courage to step out and do the thing that no one thinks is possible or that they think you're crazy for trying to do. That is always the thing, right? And those are some mindset moments that bold leaders will need to remember and be prepared for moving forward. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is having clear goals and big dreams. And I talked about this, I've referenced it for sure, but here's the thing. Harriet didn't just want freedom for herself. She wanted freedom for herself so that she could help free others. Again, not because there was something that there was no model for this for her. It was it truly was her big dream that people thought she was crazy for having. They're like, no, you get your freedom, you stay. You don't come back. She was actually told, don't come back for us. Be safe, do what you can from there. And she's like, no. The dream and the goal is I'm going to get my freedom, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to help other people get their freedom as well. Right? And ultimately, her goal was to get all of her family out of bondage, which she was almost successful at. I won't tell one story, but one family member didn't make it, right? But it was not from a lack of trying on Harriet's part. She achieved this over this span of time, and not only saved ultimately her whole entire family, freed and unfreed, moved them out of slavery, but also hundreds of others, and became a first woman to lead a military regiment to help go do that. That was something I did not know. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to go do some serious reading on this, right? Like some refreshing of the memory on some of these things. Because guess what? We talked about last week, leaders always are willing to learn. You got to be willing to learn and to explore things that you had not considered before. One of the reasons why I want to go back and watch the movie and do some more research on my own, because even though, yes, I know the story of Harriet Tubman and all that, but it's been, whittled down to this cliche. And this movie made it such that she's not a cliche. This is a real person who literally put her life on the line to not just help herself, but to help others to achieve something that many people did not think was possible. You have to set the goal. You have to be clear about what the goal is. And don't be afraid of setting big dreams. What if she had the clear goal, right? Get free. The additional one, though, of being a clear goal and a big dream is get free herself and free her entire family and others. Huge. What are those things that you have big dreams for? Have you set the clear goal to achieve the big dream? And are you willing to have a moment of courage to face some challenges in order to achieve those goals and to fulfill those dreams? Those are the things to think about and consider as you are facing and looking to be a bold leader. All right, here's the last one. Number 3, building strategic relationships. Y'all know I love to talk about this. And you're like, okay, how are you going to slip this in, in terms of Harriet Tubman? Guess what? The whole Underground Railroad system was about building strategic relationships. Think about it. There was this entire underground connection of people, Black and white, men and women, who believed that slavery was wrong, and they were willing to help those who were willing and wanted to get out of slavery. They were willing to put their lives on the line, their families on the line, in order to help these other folks achieve their goals. Think about that. A whole bunch of bold leaders connected up, basically, to build some strategic partnerships quietly in what's considered very dangerous times. Because remember, slaves were considered property. So if you helped a slave to escape, you basically were stealing from the slave owner. That's how it was viewed. Think about that. And yet, these relationships were formed, they were maintained, they were continued. And because these relationships were formed and continued, they helped Harriet Tubman become who she became in terms of not just becoming one slave who escaped and became free, but one who was able to go back, utilizing and leveraging those same relationships to free many others over and over and over again. Just got chills thinking about it. How powerful is that? What can you achieve by building strategic relationships, by engaging in partnerships that aren't just willy-nilly, that aren't just transactional? I mean, think about this. If these folks had engaged in transactional relationship building, this never would have worked, because transactions mean you give me something, I take it, and then we're done. So someone could have flipped very easily just for the money. There's a scene like that. I will not tell that part of the story. It's fascinating to watch, and how someone does get flipped, but in a different way, right? How can you be that bold leader to help build strategic relationships to support not just your goal, not just your dream, but the goals and dreams of others? Wow. How can you be that person? Y'all are going to see that one again. That is something that's so important to think about and to consider as you seek to become not just a leader, hopefully, but one who's able to act with boldness, to act in a way that allows others to be not even just be confident, but to take chances, and to know that leadership goes way beyond a title. It goes way beyond just doing, quote, the right thing, because sometimes doing the right thing is a sacrifice. Everybody's not willing to do that, right? To go beyond. What does that say? That definition, going beyond the usual limits. Being a bold leader is not about just sitting in conventional wisdom and being, okay, we accomplished that and that's great. Being bold about it, it means you're going beyond, over and beyond the usual limits to accomplish a thing, to pursue a goal, to pursue and build a dream that ultimately doesn't just impact you, but it impacts others. Because remember, when you're talking about what leadership is about that ability to influence other people to take action in a way they might not otherwise do. Man, so much goodness there. So much goodness. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right there because we could keep going. I want you to think about some of those things. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments, whether in the comment section or DM me. And next time, we will continue this conversation, and we're going to look at those bold leadership nuggets, right? And what it means when you're being a bold leader, and some nuggets that come from that. There are going to be 6 of them. So that's your lead in to the next conversation. So thank you for joining. I look forward to following up. If you have any questions or if you need any assistance, do not hesitate to reach out. Hit me up, get in the DMs or get on my calendar, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. All right. Take care, everyone. Talk again soon. Bye.